Well, hello there Photoshop fans, Gary Bradley here from Creative Frontiers, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can create type masks. So type masks allow you to only show parts of an image through the text in a type layer. Can be done for either portion of an image or the entire image. Now in this case we're going to use editable text to only reveal the right hand side of this person's face in this image. Speaking of which, you can download the exercise files that I'm working with here. There'll be a zip file, you can download them from the show notes and work along and just make it. So without further ado, let's dive in. Most of the work will be done in the layers panel. So I'm going to click and drag and then pull the layers panel up here and get our good buddy there visible on screen. And then the next thing we need to do is really kind of mark off where that midpoint is in the image. I want to have this running right down the center from top to bottom, this kind of split. Now, a guide will really help with that. Now, if you've got just an irregular background layer in your layers panel here, and if you have under the view menu, rulers turned on, which I do because the tick is there, you'll see that rulers run across the top of the screen and they run down the side of the screen where the tools panel is. You could then take your cursor over to the vertical ruler and you can click and hold down the mouse in the middle of that ruler and drag a guide across. The way that Photoshop works is then one of the places it will automatically snap to is the center of the image. Now, if I do that here, it snaps to the center of the image, but that doesn't actually happen to be the center where this person's face is. So I can always zoom in. I'm going to use the scroll wheel on the mouse just to zoom in nice and close. And as long as I have my move tool active from the top of the tools panel, I can hover over that guide and I kind of move into move guide mode. And I can click and hold down the mouse and drag that to where I think the middle of the image is here, running right through the bridge of the nose there. So I'm happy with that. I can then zoom out and I've got a good kind of demarcation there for where the middle of the actual photo is. From here then, I need to turn this into a regular layer, not a background layer. So I'm going to click on the padlock icon here and that will convert it into a regular layer. It'll give it a generic name of layer 0. And if I double left click on that, I'm going to call that left. And you'll see why in just a minute, because if I switch to my rectangular marquee tool with a left click, make sure the mode is set to new, feathers set to 0, and then the style is set to norm, which will allow me to click and drag and draw whatever kind of width and height for a rectangular marquee selection I wish. I can then go and hover my cursor over the top edge, just off the edge of the image in here in the canvas, click and hold down the mouse, keep it held down, and drag all the way down that right hand side. When I run my cursor off the edge of the canvas, let go, I have a selection that is exactly that right hand side of the face. Here's the neat trick you can do then. You can then go to the layers drop down menu at the top, choose new, and then we can effectively cut and paste by using new layer via cut. And you notice if you take a look in the layers panel, when I click on that, essentially cuts that content that's selected from the original layer, which I called left, and it pastes it into a brand new layer called layer 1. So if I double click on that, call that right, and then press return, I now have the two halves of my face separated out. So that's good. That's perfectly what we need. And then from here, I will then go down to and left click on my left layer in there to make it active. Because the next thing I need to do is to add a new adjustment layer, which will be a solid color in there, right at the top of the list. Left click on that. It will then throw up whatever color was used last in here. Actually, I reset my colors, as I usually do for all my tutorials, back to pure black and pure white, which is the defaults. But actually, you know, I can hover my cursor straight out of here. I can left click and I can sample anything from the image. And obviously, it needs to be something that's going to be dark in the background, because that's going to be where the image is going to blend away and disappear to. So if I click in the black in there, in that region at the top right hand side, I'm kind of almost guaranteeing that all that background that I'm going to create in this new color layer will be the same as the image. Go down and click on OK. And then of course, it appears immediately above the layer that was active, which is called left. So if I hover my cursor over that layer, drag that down underneath the layer called left, that's right down at the bottom. Don't need to do anything else with that now. I can then simply go up to the locking options and lock all of those options in there. So I can't move it, I can't paint on it, edit it at all. So that's now stuck there. What I will then do is click on my left layer once more. Now I have already added a text layer and I've built that already just for ease. So you're not sat here watching me type out, because it takes me ages to type. I'm really bad at typing. So if I go to File and choose Open, this will also be available to use in the link in the show notes. I have a PSD called text in there. And if I choose to open that up, this is all it is. And it's essentially just a canvas with an editable text layer in. And you'll see down here, I have typed in some text in there. It relates to American football. Again, it depends what the subject is. You can type into that whatever you want. In terms of suggestions, I would say go with a nice kind of heavy, bold font, because we want to be able to show as much of the image through as possible. If it's a very narrow, very slim font, then you're going to reveal less of the image. Now, this will become more apparent when we move it over to the other document. So, as with all layers in Photoshop, if you've got two documents open, you can fire this layer over to another file. So if I hover my cursor over the layer name here, which is the name of whatever I typed into that text layer, right click on it, choose duplicate layer. It will then ask me, because it assumes that I want to, create a duplicate in this layer in here. When actually, if I go down to the destination and then choose a different document, not the existing one called text, if I choose paragraph clipping, and then from here, click OK, it will appear as though nothing has happened. But actually, the subtle clue is that in the tab, the document tab at the top up here, that's obviously the other document called paragraph clipping.jpg. And in the brackets up there, it will always tell you the current layer name that is active. And whenever you duplicate a layer, that's the layer that becomes active in there. And you can see here, it's American football, referred to as, that's the text layer. So I can actually, with great confidence, because I've also done this before, click on the X to close this file down. And you'll see that it drops that text in there. And again, a Photoshop thing that it usually does is it puts that text into the upper left corner of the canvas. Notice that that text layer is active, as we kind of predicted it would be. I'll then switch to my move tool at the top of the tools panel, and then it'll allow me to click and drag and then just move that text wherever I want. Now, here's the problem. I need it positioned above the layer called left, but that means it's sandwiched between the two halves of the image. I can't see where I'm moving on the right hand side. So for now, I'll just click and turn off the visibility for the right hand side of the face. Make sure my text layer is selected, and then click and drag and pull that across. Now I want to make sure that this text is positioned where, you know, the bulk of the face is. It does actually blend to black down here in the background color. So the main bit is making sure there's text over the kind of the face and the neck and things like that, and the hair. So just want to double check by just using my scroll wheel to zoom in that I do have my characters flush right up to my guide in there. Obviously I can click and drag and move it around, but to be precise, I really need to go to the cursor keys and just keep nudging that by tapping the left cursor key on the keyboard until I make sure that text is definitely up to flush with that guide in there, like so. I can then use the scroll wheel to zoom out, maybe a bit too far. And then from here, what I can do is I can turn on the visibility for the right hand side of the face. Obviously that hides the text, but what we're going to do now is say to everything that's in the right hand side layer, called right, that we only want it to be visible wherever there are printable content in the layer immediately underneath, which is our text. Now that technique is called a clipping layer. So you make sure the layer that you want to be revealed or concealed, which is our right layer here, is active in the layers panel. Then you can go to the panel flight menu, go down the list, and you can choose create clipping mask, which a little bit slightly confusing. What it will do is it will turn this layer and it will basically mask parts of this layer out, as I mentioned. So when you click on that, you won't see a mask appear in the layers panel. What it does do, however, is it only shows the content in this layer wherever there is content in the layer immediately underneath. And Photoshop will show this little arrow pointing down. It indents the layer that you have clipped to the layer underneath, and then the layer that has been used as the mask to reveal and conceal then gains an underline in its layer name in there, and that's what we've got here. So, you know, all these things are adjustable. I could, if I wanted to, double click on the thumbnail for the capital T, and you can see there, it's all editable text. You could delete that text out. You could type something new in there if you wanted to. So you could click my cursor in there and edit as I wish to. So that's the really cool thing about it. If you want to use different images with this technique, then you could kind of create a template file and edit it as you need. Now, I don't want to change that. I'm going to hit the escape key to come out of type editing mode. And then I will go to the view menu, go down to and turn off my guides. So show, and then in here, turn off guides. And we have the clear image. So if I zoom in here, you can see that the only portions of the right hand side of the face are revealed where there is text in the layer underneath. And that is a clipping layer technique. Thanks again, folks, for watching. And remember, if you want to see more YouTube videos in the future from my channel, Creative Frontiers, then click on the subscribe button. And if you don't want to miss a single video of techie goodness, then hit the bell next to the subscribe button. And every time a new video is posted, you'll get one of those notifications that tells you there's a new video there to go and view. I think that's it for now. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.